Hello, it's Talking Reds, it's Monday, it's John Gibbons, it's Craig Hannan, it's everything you need after the Reds win 3-0 against Watford at the weekend. Are you still buzzing?
I am absolutely buzzing by it, yeah.
We had a good day, didn't we, mate?
We had a lovely day out. Watford's quite quickly becoming one of my favourite aways, if not my favourite away. The stadium's right in the middle, just some decent pubs and stuff that we can go to. We had a lovely night out the last time. We obviously were just there for the day this time, but and this time the Reds won, because last year it was the 3-3, the first game of the season, and we were going into it, dead excited, and coming out of it really deflated. And I think this time was completely different. The pub that we were in afterwards was buzzing with Reds, everyone's singing, and yeah, just a lovely day watching the Reds win 3-0 away from home. Yeah,
I mean, it was almost the perfect away performance, really. First half, quieting the crowd down, getting on top. By the time I think we'd scored, we were looking the better side, seeing a lot of the possession and starting to create. And, there's a lot to be said for a lot of the players, throughout the pitch coming to the party, if you like, at different times. Obviously, Alisson makes a big save first half. Defensively, it's another clean sheet. Virgil van Dijk finishes off as captain. His stats are absolutely amazing against Troy Deeney, who's been a bit of a nuisance. I think he won 8 aerial duels in the game. And then up front, all three of them are involved in the goals, all three of them looking dangerous. And yeah, bodes well going into a big week, Paris and Everton.
A massive week, one that we should all be excited about now because of the way they're playing. I think that the first half, within the ground, you almost needed that first half, the way it was so close and sort of edgy and still 0-0, and we were sort of wondering, is it going to be one of these days, or how are we going to find the goal? You needed that sort of feeling to then enjoy properly the release of the next 3 goals. It was, the first one was the relief of getting the first one. The second one was just sheer elation of it being Trent, our boy, scoring an absolute belter free kick. And yeah, the performances all over the pitch, I think we can be really happy with them. I think that just the one blemish on the day really is the Jordan Henderson sending off, which at the time I had no idea what was going on in the ground. he was saying that, I was like, Henderson's gone, why is Fabinho not come on? And he's gone, oh, he's off. And I'm like, I know he's off, but why Fabinho not coming on? He's like, he's been sent off. And I'm like, what? When did that happen? Just completely missed it. So that's the one sort of little blemish. I'm sure he'd be really frustrated at that, because Klopp and Henderson, I suppose, because Klopp is literally about to get him off the minute the ball goes out of play. But yeah, in terms of the defence, the goalkeeper just doing things that you want a record signing to do, and the kind of thing our goalkeepers didn't do in the past, which is just make a belter save that means that the team can sort of build on that. And you saw him do it at Chelsea as well early in the season. We're seeing these performances now where maybe he's not needed throughout the game, and he just makes that one save that's so important in terms of how the game pans out. And I think Dads have got it here, 5 conceded in 13 games. I don't think that Liverpool have ever done that before in the league.
Yeah, it's a Premier League record, certainly, and it's also a Premier League record number of points for this stage of the season, which is all really positive. And yeah, looking good. I mean, Trent Alexander-Arnold, it's been quite a month for him. Obviously, he gets his first goal for England, and then he knocks in that free kick. And then, if that's not enough, the big one, he gets in Garth Crooks' team of the week this weekend, which is I'm sure what he's been waiting for. I mean, Garth makes a good point. He's talking about the free kick, and he says, you've got Mo Salah there who always wants to score standing over. Jordan Henderson, who's club captain, quite fancy it as well. Firmino's still on the pitch, but he's the one who goes now, he grabs it, he's got the confidence to take it. Maybe if Shaqiri would have still been on, there'd have been a bit of a battle, but he's got that confidence to take it, and yeah, absolutely flew in.
Well, first of all, I think that's a massive positive. You've got 2 players on the pitch that would be fighting over taking a free kick like that if Shaqiri was on, because we know what he can do from a set piece. And I think it was almost like a mirror image of his goal in Hoffenheim, I thought, the way it hits the net and everything. And you're right, that's the first thing I thought when he scores his first goal for Liverpool in the Hoffenheim game was there's a young lad, 18, 19 years old, who's just not afraid to tell Emre Can to move out of the way because he's going to hit it, and Emre Can lets him at that time, and exactly the same thing happens at the weekend where he just sets the ball down. And I said to you, I don't think I've ever been as sure about a free kick going in, and I've no idea why, but I said to him, he's scoring this, and he just does it. And yeah, the let off for that goal was brilliant, really, and that was lots of fans knowing that was probably the 3 points wrapped up, and it was a young lad from the city who supported this team, and I think it always means that a little bit more, doesn't it, when you see that?
I mean, Trent's goal sort of seals it really. The one that wraps it up is Firmino's in the late one. I was doing the celebration in our video in the ground. Apparently it means something about salt, is it? Yeah, I know you've looked into this.
Yeah, apparently this could be some lad on Twitter having us off here, but apparently it's a Brazilian tradition that if you've had a bit of a goal drought, that you're sort of, I think it's dusting off the salt or something.
Yeah.
No idea what that means, but he was doing lots of it. But I liked how, like, we said it in the video immediately after the game, that I liked how he's like looking at the lines when he's going, is this okay? And then he's still doing the celebration, and then he does his one eye celebration. Yeah, that was. I love a late goal that just sort of that's it done. I think there's not a lot better than that in an away match, certainly, and I think that's definitely one of the big positives, especially going into the game in Paris, is that all three of the strikers were involved, whether it's the Mane assist, obviously Salah gets his goal, does that celebration that apparently is something to do with Sergio Ramos.
It's Ramos' celebration, so they reckon it might be linked to his drugs test and things like that, but I don't know. I don't know if Mo's throwing shade or what, but I do like the taking the salt out after a dry spell.
It's a big yes from the celebration point from us.
Yeah, we do like that. Listen, there's going to be loads more analysis of this game, of course, across all Tour Players platforms. As soon as this finishes, in fact I'm a little bit late to be honest with you, we're going to record the free show, which is our Anfield Wrap, our flagship show, which goes out every week for free. It's going to be an absolute belter, a really good cast this week, so if, you know, I'm sure a lot of you listening to, watching this do listen to our free show, but if you don't, it'd be a great week to start. And if you do, it'd be a good week to maybe tell your friends about that as well. We're looking forward to doing it. Over on our subscription audio service, Tour Player, we've got the review show, which is our in-depth, more statistical look. Sean Rogers, who's a UEFA qualified coach, is coming in. I know he's really excited to get stuck into this Liverpool performance. He thinks it's much better than people are giving us credit for, so that'll be great. So that's going out to 6. And then at 8 o'clock, we've got our Under Lights show, which is our preview to all Champions League games. This one's obviously looking forward to Paris. We've got a French journalist on the phone to tell us just how good this PSG team are. We've got a Liverpool fan living out there in Paris to tell us which bars to go to. And then obviously we've got all the guys in the studio looking forward to it as well. So what more can you want? It's a brilliant time to subscribe to the Anfield Wrap. And Neil is just about to tell you why.
It's going to be a fantastic run, and with the Anfield Wrap, you know what we do. We do shows in previewing every game, looking back on every game. What we try to do is we try to look back immediately afterwards with that raw emotion and hopefully that raw positivity and energy. Then we have our free show, which many of you watch, and you can enjoy that one, and then we have our more tactically based review. We've also got our Friday show, which looks at the whole Premier League picture every single weekend, every single set of games. That's what we do for you. Then we've got our team talk, which focuses in, and we've got our free weekender as well, which looks at the Liverpool weekend as a whole, focusing in on that match itself. The games come thick and fast. It is the run into Christmas, and you know what, you couldn't enjoy it any more than enjoy it with us for £5 a month.
Come on, get involved, share the journey with us. So there you are, listen to Neil and subscribe to the Anfield Wrap, but make sure obviously you're also subscribing to our YouTube channel, so press the subscribe in there and you'll be getting loads of good video content for us over the next few days. As me and you go to Paris,
I'm so
we're
excited.
On our way.
We are.
I need to make sure you remember your passport. You keep asking me worrying questions like, do you need a passport even though we're going on the train?
No, I just wasn't sure, like, because usually you need a passport when you're flying, don't you? But
it's more the other country thing
land,
than the flying thing.
Yeah, it just, yeah.
Make sure you get
the
your
train
passport.
doesn't feel as like it doesn't feel as if you're going to have to do all the airport jiggery. So you're a grass anyway, right? I've got my if anyone's worried, my mum will be watching this. She'll be worried. I've got my passport set and I've got my euros and I've got my ticket all sat like waiting. So
Craig's mum, maybe just give me a ring tomorrow afternoon and just check he's got everything. He's got his toothbrush and his spare socks and all that.
Are you excited though?
I'm really excited. Yeah, it's going to be great. I've never done a game in Paris. You know, it's a bit of a new team for us. Obviously, we played them in the 90s in the Cup Winners' Cup, but I wasn't really old enough to be doing European aways then. So you know, it's one we've not faced for a while. So it'll be a new stadium for quite a few of us. Really, it's not too far. The lads from Boss are doing a big event in the afternoon, so that should be fantastic. So if you're over in France, sort of get over to that. But we'll be there covering it best we can.
We'll have a lovely day out in Paris.
So make sure you're getting on all our social media and stuff to watch me and Craig on the French wine, enjoying ourselves.
Yeah, lovely little sit-down meal in front of the Eiffel Tower. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that'll be cheap. Yeah, we'll do that. In other news, just want to focus on a couple of things that I've noticed on my Football Flash app this morning. One of them is around Dom Solanke. Obviously, he's not really getting much of a look at the moment. There was another game at the weekend where he doesn't feature. And there's a few clubs sniffing around him. One of them was Galatasaray, I noticed, which would be an interesting one. The other one is Rangers. It feels like obviously a lot of our young players linked with Rangers, with Steven Gerrard going there, but they do need a striker. They are a little bit short of goals in a few games this season. And Oviedo Jaria is one who's up at Rangers at the moment, and he's saying he's really enjoyed his time up there. He'd only have good things to say about Rangers. Obviously, Solanke's a good player, he's known for a long time. He scores a lot of goals, so if he was to come to Rangers in January, it'd be a very good addition to the squad. So Oviedo's saying to his mate, come up. I mean, it just depends kind of how Jurgen Klopp's looking at this, really, looking at the situation, but you do fancy that Solanke does need games sooner rather than later in Rangers. Maybe Rangers would be a good move for him. It's pressures of playing for a big club.
Yeah, and Steven Gerrard will know exactly what kind of player he's getting. I know he was linked in the summer, wasn't he? I'm not sure how strong those were. And speaking to some Rangers fans, they seem keen on getting him in. I think a lot of it depends on the Daniel Sturridge situation with the betting, because we're not sure what's going to happen whether he's going to be found guilty or what, we're not sure. So if there's a ban in there, then Dom Solanke will have more of a chance. It's certainly rather Solanke on the bench than Divock Origi, really. And that's one thing I've sort of been thinking lately, is I'm a little bit surprised that we haven't heard some links to Germany, because you look at how many young English players at the moment who are going over there. Reece Nelson being one, Jadon Sancho as well. Like, we're seeing quite a few. It's like a trend now where they're sort of being plucked from the academies in England or the under 23s and being brought over and being successful. So that's one that I thought I would maybe hear more links for. But the Rangers would be going up there with his mates and playing under Steven Gerrard in front of that stadium in front of that set of fans every week. Like, I'm sure he'd be bang up for that. It's just whether he's going to get some game time in the in the next 6 months. And I think it's always a risk as well, because you look at Ben Woodburn. Is Ben Woodburn back? I think he's back playing a bit of football for the under 23s. He was at the weekend, because he's just been not getting a game. So if he's not getting a game and he's not training with elite footballers every day, then what's the point? So it'd be up to Jurgen Klopp to sort of weigh that up, I think.
It's a tough one. One to watch. The other fellow who's been talking about Liverpool again is Pep Guardiola. He was in Liverpool last week doing a talk and mentioned that he can't read books anymore, because when he does, he ends up thinking about Jurgen Klopp. I mean, I've got similar issues myself, but it's
do you know what, though,
just jolly fancy.
Do you know what, they get annoyed at us about ruining their bus, and now they claim they can't read because of us. Is there anything else that we're going to do to annoy them? Like,
this new one that the Pep Guardiola's talking about is this idea of rivalries, and this idea that obviously the top teams are all going at a ridiculous pace. It looks like it's going to be record points totals, maybe for second place, even for fourth place. And he's likened it to the rivalry between Nadal, Federer and Djokovic in the tennis, and the idea of all these elite sportsmen pushing each other on even further, and the idea that he says, I don't need to tell me players that we can't drop points because I know we can't afford to. And that does sort of feel like what it's like at the moment, is that you should be able to draw it away from home and think, oh, that's a decent result, but right now you've just got to win. Yeah,
these two managers are sort of changing the football landscape in England, I think, and Guardiola especially, because at times we've discussed this season about whether this Liverpool team are getting enough credit for what they're doing, because it's a record start, and usually we'd be absolutely bouncing, and then there's certain people that are a bit like, well, City are doing this and City are doing that, and I think we just need to stop thinking about City, worrying about City, because look how many times has Guardiola mentioned us, so they're worried about us, and they're absolutely scalping teams every single week, and we're they'd have been looking at our result at half time and going, they're 0-0, they might drop points here, and then they come off the pitch at the end, they're like, they've gone out and won 3-0. That must frustrate them, and the longer we keep up with them and keep within distance of them and hopefully overtake them come when we play them in January, then who knows what happens in the last 4 months of the season. And I think it was you said in one of the podcasts that there's no club does momentum like Liverpool, and once there's momentum behind this club, then you know, God knows what can happen. So yeah, look, I love them continually mentioning us. Guardiola talking about us, saying he can't read because of us, and that just shows how much we're annoying them and how much he's having to think about us.
Yeah, momentum is here. It was a great win at the weekend. We can't wait for Paris. Craig's bringing his passport to your shores.
Promise.
Make sure you're following us across all the channels. Subscribe to the Anfield app. Get amongst it. Share the journey. It's an amazing chance for Liverpool.